All right, great. Again, welcome to the CDR and Databricks interactive session. On the screen here, you will see two links that I will share in the chat. You can navigate to them to view previous training sessions or upcoming event dates and topics. On to our administrative announcements. This is an interactive and collaborative session, so we will be opening Zoom breakout rooms here shortly. You can navigate to them, and a CCSQ DNA team member will be in each room to help support you and answer your questions. If you do have questions, feel free to just ask them verbally, go off of mute. You can type them in the chat, or you can also use the raise hand feature in Zoom. Portions of this meeting will be recorded and made available in the CCSQ DNA portal. Just make sure to give us a few days to turn those around and publish them out. And again, at the end of this call, we will be administering a survey. So please give us your feedback. Let us know how we're doing. And if you have any suggestions for topics that you haven't seen out in portal, let us know in that survey. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and stop screen sharing, and I'll go ahead and hand it over to Tim.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura. And hi, everybody. If you haven't seen or met me before, my name is Tim. I'm a senior data scientist here on the user services team, and I'm going to be leading our interactive session today on dashboarding and Databricks. So I'm going to share my screen. There's going to be a notebook here, and I also want to share the link to that notebook. So I'm going to do that first. And then I'll talk about what we're doing. Ooh, there we go. Hold on. Can I make this go away? There we go. All right. So we are going to have an interactive session on Databricks dashboards. There are actually two things that could mean. So we have an actual thing called Databricks dashboards. If you've ever worked with any dashboarding software before, like Tableau, Power BI, or any of the millions of other ones out there, this should be pretty familiar to you. And there's a second kind that Databricks gives to us, which is Databricks notebook dashboards. It's kind of a mouthful. I wish they would just call it something else. But it is mostly the same thing, but it can actually be rooted in notebooks. So I'll kind of go over what that means because it's less likely that you're familiar with that, but that's what we're going to be familiarizing ourselves with today. But first, I have two icebreaker questions for you to kind of get us in a chatty mood, because remember, this is an interactive session, which means that audience participation is appreciated. So I have two questions for you, and I want you to answer both of them. I want to know, where are you in your SAS to Databricks transition? So I'm in the beginning of it. I'm like fully in Databricks, wherever you are. And then question two, I want to know, what is the best sandwich? If you could have, it's noon, I'm on the East Coast. It is noon right now. So if you could have any sandwich for lunch right now, what would it be? Maybe I shouldn't ask this because I'm going to get hungry. Cuban is a good choice. Where can I get a Cuban around here? Ruben? Jeff is, you have the same favorite sandwich as me, and you're right by me. I'm like half a mile from the Westat office. I live in the Shady Grove area of Rockville, so there are some pretty good Reubens around us. Tuna sandwich, controversial choice, Katie. Philly cheesesteak, that's good. All right, lot of sandwiches, not as much Databricks talk, but okay. Turkey sandwich, classic. Buffaletta, that's an answer. Chicken sandwich. Almost done with our Databricks transition. Pramani Bros, there's a good answer. I wish we haven't. I think the nearest one to me is in Hagerstown, which is like an hour away. Get a good Reuben there with French fries in the sandwich. A veggie sandwich. Strawberry turkey cranberries. Cuban sandwich with cream cheese, ham, and marmalade. Where do you even get that? And Alana Roosevelt? Sounds interesting. Miami, okay. I've never been, but I'll make sure to get one. Cool, cool. All right, keep the sandwich talk coming. I'm gonna get us kind of started here. So, like I mentioned a minute ago, there are two types of dashboards. We can create a dashboard from the dashboard panel. So on the left here, now I have to make this bigger again. On the left here, you can go to dashboards right here and just make a dashboard from scratch. So that is going to be your exercise 1 today. We're going to have 2 exercises. Exercise 1 is just make a dashboard. Exercise 2 is going to be on creating a dashboard from a notebook. And that's going to have a little bit more of an explanation. But first I want to tell us, why would you do one versus the other? Because you can basically make the same dashboards with either technique. And there's a little bit of a trade-off between them. So with a Databricks dashboard, it's actually a little bit cheaper because of the cluster kind you're running on. And it's simpler, right? You don't really need to know any code to do a Databricks dashboard. It's mostly just point and click. And even if you are a coding expert like I know you are, there's no reason to make something harder than it has to be. So if you just want to do something that's point and click, go on ahead. It also uses the SQL endpoint cluster. Not that that really is so important for you. It'll make it a little bit better for doing SQL, and it's going to be cheaper and cost effective for us. And unless you're paying the bill, maybe you don't care, but it's better for us. Contrast that with the Databricks notebook dashboard. You have finer control. This is powered by your Python code, or R, I guess. So you have more control over what data is being used and how it's being used. You have a little bit of better control over like the widgets on the dashboard, and we'll actually do an example of creating a widget today. And it also uses your personal compute cluster. So if you're working with really big data and you want to make sure that you're using, Tim's cluster or whatever, like I am here, this will be using your compute cluster. Again, that will make it more expensive, but it will be more powerful. Yes, thank you, Justina. Yeah. And also, you have all of the benefits of working with a code-based piece of software. So it's version controllable if you're doing that. It's more maintainable, and you can actually see what's going right and wrong, right? If you just have a point-and-click dashboard and something doesn't look right, you have to like click through settings menus. But if you have something that's code-based and it doesn't look right, you can actually look at your code to diagnose it, right? So as a programmer, I really like the notebook dashboards because it's, everything is what you see is what you get. And with the Databricks dashboards, if it's point and click, it's not necessarily the case. Okay, before I send you into breakout rooms, I want to get you each started on the 2 exercises. So exercise 1 is going to be using the Databricks dashboard, just plain old dashboards. And we're going to be using some grocery transaction data. So to create a new dashboard, you simply click Dashboards. I'm going to control click to open up in a new tab here. And you can just click Create Dashboard. And I'll call it, you get to name it. I'll call it Grocery Dashboard. Not a very good name. And there's even some little starter instructions here, so you could, you're probably going to click Add a Visualization first. One thing that is maybe a little bit different than what you might be used to with other software is that you actually have to create data first. So the canvas is where you have everything. And then you go to data, and this is where the actual data you're going to port into your dashboard is going to come from. So you can create it from a SQL query. So you can select star from whatever, and then you click run, and then that will create the data set for you that you can then use in your canvas. This will come in handy as you go through our stuff. So that'll be exercise 1. I have some instructions for you. The instructions are minimal, right? If you've never worked with dashboarding before, have fun with it. Change the color of the graph, make more graphs, play around with it. The goal of this is not to get you to check some boxes and then be done with an exercise. The goal is to get you comfortable working with a dashboard and to kind of rub up against the limits of what Databricks dashboarding is capable of. You'll notice that it's not as extensive as something like Tableau or Power BI if you've worked with those. So do what you can and then realize maybe what the limitations of Databricks are too. All right, so that'll be exercise 1. Exercise 2 is going to be a Databricks notebook dashboard of electric vehicle data. So I have some code to get you started here. We're going to be using the electric vehicle population again. And I even have a optional thing you could be adding to your dashboard of a widget. So you don't need to do this part, but if you want to do a little bit extra, I do have some kind of helpful starter instructions to get you going with creating an actual widget to make a filter on your dashboard. To create a dashboard, you can click this button up here and then just create a new notebook dashboard. Or when you display a table, see where it says table and there's a plus sign here, you can create a new visualization. And so there's a little bit of point and click stuff you can do, and then you can create or you can add it to either a new notebook dashboard or create a new notebook dashboard on the fly. Okay. Wow, we have a lot of people. I don't think I've ever seen 52 people in an interactive session before, so I hope my teammates are ready for these breakout rooms. Feel free to either stay here with me in the main room and ask me questions, or feel free to go out to any of the other breakout rooms. I believe Laura, if she hasn't already, is about to make 3 breakout rooms. One if you're confused and scared and don't know what to do, and then one for exercise 1 and one for exercise 2.
I'll go ahead and open them right now. So you should get a notification.
All right. So feel free to jump to those breakout rooms. Tiffany asks, what if there isn't a plus next to table? So if you're using display, the screen will look like this, but if you're using like show or something like that, it might look a little bit different. But if you're using display, this really should be there. That's a feature of Databricks. We can either talk about it or you can ask somebody about it in your breakout room. Oh, and of course, maybe the reason you can't see plus is because you're using my notebook. I'm so sorry. This is the most important thing. This is my notebook. You can't touch it. In order to do this on your own, you're going to have to clone the notebook. So cloning it will make your own copy of the notebook. It's possible you don't have the plus sign because you don't have edit access to my notebook. I'm so sorry. So please clone the notebook and work off of your own personal copy of it. Thank you for bringing that up. I would have forgotten. And recording in progress indeed. So let's go over. I'm not going to go over everything in extreme detail, but hopefully go over kind of some of the broad strokes we'll get you up and running with these dashboards if you were not able to, or maybe just to check your work a little bit. So I'll reshare my screen. This. And exercise 1 was entirely in the dashboard view. So there's no code or anything here. So I created a new dashboard before we went into our breakout rooms. And I told you the first thing we needed to do was to create a data set. And so I gave you this grocery data set, but I also gave you another instruction. So create a new data set based on this table. This is a table of transactions for a large grocer across 4 regions for 5 items, or is it 6 items? Make sure to remove the item that doesn't belong as part of the data creation query. So when you create a data set this way, this is your opportunity to do any data transformations you want before you create it as a data set. So if you look very carefully at the items here, one of them is not like the other. This is the names of 5 fruit and a xylophone. Okay, So xylophone is a mistake, a data misentry, or maybe it's legitimate data that we just don't want to consider. So I'm going to say select star from here where the item is not. I'll run it. And looks good. And now I'm going to save this data set. I'm just gonna call it grocery. Okay, so now I have an official data set that I could just grab and create any number of the following pieces of data viz. So I gave you 4 options here. You could have created up to 4 of these, or maybe even other ones that I didn't list. This was just a place to kind of get you started. So let's try them. Let's try a bar chart of total sales by item with region as color. Well, let's start with the main part here. A bar chart of total sales by item. So I'm going to go to the canvas and I'm going to create a new viz. And I'll put it smack dab in the middle here. So what you could do is you could ask the AI assistant. And I have played with the AI assistant, and it is actually really, really good. But in addition to costing cluster resources, it costs a lot of water in other countries. So, I mean, you could use it, but I'm not going to use it because I kind of know what I'm doing here. So I'm going to create a bar chart that does actually happen to be the default. And what do I want? I want sales by item. So I think on the x-axis, I want the item. So I'm going to go to x-axis, and it's going to be the item. And on the y-axis, I think I want the sales. And the default is sum of sales. So that's good. You could put average, median, whatever you want here, but it is the sum of sales. And I want region as a color. What would that do if I clicked region? So here we have a 3-dimensional graph. You might not consider it 3-dimensional because it doesn't pop out of the page or anything, but it is indeed 3-dimensional because I'm using 3 variables. I have an X variable, a Y variable, and then I have a third variable, region, being represented by color. So looks pretty good. You can create other things here, but honestly, not very many. You can add some labels. I think that makes it look very cluttered. You can create some annotations, a tooltip. I haven't really messed around with those. You can add a title. What's the title going to be? You can actually click it here. Sales by item and region. Sure. And I think you can even label the x-axes. So this is item. I'll make it with a capital I. Or even I could just do backspaces, or rather hide the axis title. I personally believe it is a myth that everything needs to be labeled on a graph. I think that if you have a descriptive enough graph title, or rather if you have axis labels and no graph title, I think things can be descriptive enough, but famous last words. So I'm going to get rid of that because the label is there. Maybe change the y-axis. Sum of sale is not good enough for me. I want total sale, and I'll put USD so everybody knows. We just did the y-axis. How about color? It's lowercase. I don't like that. Region. Sure, whatever. You can mess around with this all you like. You can move it around the screen wherever you want. Let's try make another one. A line chart of sales over time for each item on the same graph. What do I mean by that? Let's at least do the part not in the parentheses. So I want a line chart of sales over time. So I'm going to make a new graph, and it is right here, and it is going to be a line chart. On the x-axis is going to be time, so it will be month. And on the y-axis, it will be sales. Oh, not sum of month. I don't want any transformation. There we go. So I don't know if you saw what I had to fix there, but for some reason it defaulted to my x-axis being sum of month. What I did here was the month variable in this data set was just an integer, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so it thinks it's some number to transform, but it's not. So I'm not going to do any transformation, sum of sales. And again, I'm going to add some color, but it's going to be the item. So now we've got a beautiful multicolored sales over time. Looks like fruit sales peak in June or July. Okay. Include any graph titles and markdown panels you think might be helpful to stakeholders. You can create a text box. I believe the text box understands markdown. So if I put a H1 tag there, it's big. I don't know. Obviously not very good description here, but here. And I can put it like that. Maybe I'll call it a day. This is production quality, and I'll publish it. You can publish it. And I believe, I'm not going to do it, but after you publish it, you can have it refresh every day, every hour. There will be options for that. All right. Let's try the harder one. I know we're running out of time, so I do want to do it quickly. The notebook dashboards are a little bit different, and my cluster has stopped, which means that I might not actually be able to do this in time because it's taking multiple minutes to start up. You all saw me start at the beginning of this, right? Maybe I can do it. No, it's not going to let me. Maybe I'll use my time a little bit more judiciously here, and I'll talk about how to use these widgets in case we don't have time for anything else. So the optional task at the bottom here was add a filter to your dashboard for the electric vehicle type. The reason that notebook dashboards are so powerful is because you can actually use the output of that widget to change your query. So what we want is all electric vehicles where the electric range is non-zero. I think that if the electric range was 0, it would not make a very good car, so I'm going to say that's a mistake in data entry. And add to your dashboard a line graph of average electric range over time. That is like over year. So I'll show you what this query might look like. And again, my notebook is now no longer live. So hopefully we can get this to start back up. But what I want is a query like this. Do triple quotes, and I want select everything from, and I'm going to copy and paste this out of my notes because it's a mouthful. CDR PSA community electric vehicle population where electric range is positive. Okay, so this would get me the data set, right? I could just say spark.sql of this query, and then when I display it, I can get the graph kind of like I did up here, right? Or not a graph, a table like I did up here, where I can create new pieces of data viz and so on. But I also have this widget right here. So I want to walk through this code a little bit. So dbutils.widgets.dropdown, I'm going to label it EVT for electric vehicle type, and it's going to default to all. And then the options are going to be all, plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, and battery electric vehicle. So when you have the dropdown, it's going to have these 3 options, all, PHEV, and BEV. And then my code needs some way to extract that answer. So when you change the dropdown, you should be able to extract that variable from the dropdown. So this gets the value from the thing I've labeled EVT. And I'm going to call that variable EVT. So this variable is going to either be all, it's going to be this, or it's going to be this. Laura, you have a hand up.
I do. I'm just letting you know that we're almost out of time. So we want to make sure we have enough time for the survey.
Yes. 60 seconds, and then we can do the survey.
Okay,
Sorry.
sounds good.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write actual Python code here, right? So I'm going to say if EVT is not equal to all, I'm going to add on to that query. And I'm just going to add on pure SQL syntax here. So this is appending and electric vehicle type is, and then I have to wrap this in quotes too. There, I know it's a little bit of messes and quotes, and it might seem a little bit weird to actually like use string manipulation to create a SQL query, but this is a very good and creative way to actually implement a data filter for you. And this is what will work if my notebook was live, and I apologize that it isn't. Okay, Laura is now going to send you out a survey to let me know how I did, how you liked this session, any ideas for future sessions. We really take this feedback seriously, and we want to hear all about it. It's going to take like a minute or two, so please answer it. And while you're doing that, I will stick around to answer any questions after I sneeze. Sorry.
Great. Thank you so much, Tim. I just launched the survey. It should only take you all a few seconds to submit. If you do have any suggestions for topics that you haven't seen presented on, either office hours, interactive, etc., feel free to type that up in the last question you see on that survey. And like Tim mentioned, let us know how we're doing so we can continue improving. Once you've taken that survey, you're more than welcome to drop. And again, all resources and materials and recordings that were shared today will be available in Portal. Just make sure to give us a few days to turn those around. And I'm going to put a link in the chat for where those materials will be posted to keep an eye out for that. So it's just that link that I posted. But with that said, thank you all for joining today's interactive session and have a wonderful day.
Awesome. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, everybody. And if you're still hanging around, my notebook finally spun up, and this is what a widget looks like if you'd like to see it live. You can edit it and everything. Right. And I see people pouring out. Solutions will be posted later, so keep an eye out. And thank you, everybody, for joining. See you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.